Hi, my name is Brandon, and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. And today I want to talk through the process that I went through with something last night that happened that at first resulted in some anger and some resentment, and how I handled that. Because as people who are in recovery, it's really important for us to avoid feelings and situations that bring up anger and resentment. For people who are working an AA program, you're probably very familiar with the concept that resentments are the number one offender in people going back to alcohol or drug use. And in general, what I've found is that a life lived with resentments is a life that is often lived alone, often lived in isolation, and is often lived in a state of perpetual discomfort and dissatisfaction. And that's not what I'm looking for in recovery. So what happened was last night, my wife went out to be with some friends for a little bit in the afternoon. I took care of our son, and it was a little frustrating. He's at a stage where he's a little argumentative, and I was already frustrated by some other unrelated things toward the end of the day. And so when my wife came home, it was about time to put my son to bed. And I was very frustrated and tired at that point. I wanted my wife to pick up on that frustration and tiredness and to offer to put our son to bed. When that didn't happen, I started to cop a resentment. That resentment very quickly grew, and I got upset. Now, I hadn't said anything at this point, but I got upset, and I got a little angry. And I could feel this feeling growing, and I knew this is not good. I gotta figure out how to handle this. And there was a big part of me that was like, well, you just gotta vent this. You gotta tell her how you feel and be honest and not be scared to say what you feel. But something about that didn't feel right. And it's funny because this morning I was reading in Fuck Feelings by Michael I. Bennett and Sarah Bennett, and they talk about venting anger and why this is often not the best decision. And they say, talk often just triggers an explosion, or vice versa. After a verbal burst, we end up looking for better words and or the services of a therapist, referee, or diplomat who can keep the destructiveness in check while the anger gets talked out. Meanwhile, we assume that it's unhealthy to stay angry and advise couples to talk out their problems before they go to sleep, which often means they fight even more because they're tired and cranky, fall asleep exhausted, and wake up even more irritable. Something else they say is that if you are feeling concerned that venting your anger might not be the right thing, the concern that convinces you to keep your anger bottled up is usually justified. So now, it wasn't, I knew that I needed to do something to address the feelings that I was having, or else they would linger and they would that resentment would keep churning. And I had to turn to what I learned to do in step 4 of the AA program, which was whenever I feel a resentment coming on, whenever I have any kind of anger or resentment to somebody else, I got to look at my part in the situation. And once I did that, it was easy to see my part in this situation was that I was not direct in communication at all. In fact, I had not really tried to communicate anything at all about what my needs were or what I wanted to happen. I had expected my wife to pick up on my emotions, my feelings, by my body language, by the way I was talking, by the passive way that I was addressing the situation. I could have easily said to her, I'm in a really frustrated place. Would you please take over for the rest of the night so that I can get a little bit of breathing room? And that's what I should have done. I should have just said that and been direct about what I needed. And that's what we need to do with people. And I find that, this is a very difficult thing for me to do. The reason that it's difficult for me to do, if I want to dive into it even further, the reason it's difficult for me to do stems back to my fear of rejection. I am fearful that if I tell someone what I need or what I think I need, they are going to tell me no, that they are not willing to provide it. And I need to get over that fear. I need to get over that fear and be prepared to hear someone say no. And hey, if they do, we'll handle that when it happens. But I need to stop avoiding communicating in the appropriate way because of that fear. And the way that I tried to communicate last night by having body language and saying some things, just hinting at how frustrated I was, that was not communication. That was and expecting someone else to just magically pick up on and decide and understand what I wanted based on that is not fair to that person. That's not fair at all. So to really be fair to other people, I have to be direct. And I have to be willing to put myself out there and say, hey, here's what I need. Or is that something you're willing to provide? So it was a great example for me. And I was really happy with the way things ended up at the end of the night, because I was able to talk to my wife about it and say, hey, I found myself being unfair to you by expecting you to pick up on what I was putting down. And next time something like that happens, I'm just going to ask if you are willing to help, and I just need you to know I'm not going to do that lightly. I'll save that for times where I really am in need of help. But it was and made sense to her, and we moved on. So great end to that little situation, but it was a great small situation to help me remember, one, the importance of direct communication, two, the importance of, looking at my part in things in order to prevent resentments from building. So critical, because once I find my part in things, then the key to what's the right thing to do next to resolve this situation usually ends up being right there in front of me. That's it for today. Hope you have a good day. I'll see you back here tomorrow with more.